Welcome to the broadcast. We're back, and I'm going to welcome in our special guest today, Alex W. Leath.
Hey everybody, how you doing, Aubrey?
Hey,
Uh,
I'm great.
ready to love DC reunion. Let's get it.
Yeah, let's get it. What did you think of the reunion overall? It's been all over Twitter, it's been all over Instagram, it's been all over these YouTube streets. What was your initial take on the reunion?
Um, I think the moderator did a good job. But I think that with as far as the cast members, I mean, there's the reunion sparked more questions than answers. I mean, there's even more questions now than
Such
answers.
such as what? I mean, and we'll get into it a little bit deeper, but like just give me some of the questions before we dive deeper into some of the actual things that happened during this part one. So what were some of the questions that you felt, you know,
Why did Naeem, when he wasn't directly asked the question, why did he feel the need to defend Zadia and bring up something that went on during the first episode when everybody first met each other? That she was the top 8 out of the 9 guys or whatever. That kind of thing. It's like why would he do that? Nobody asked him anything, or what's his reason for defending her like that? I understand they may be dating or seeing each other or whatever, but he needs more of a reason to that, and also he needs something more concrete to defend. So yeah, it's kind of all over
or
the place.
yeah,
Yeah,
or just stay out of women's business altogether, which is what I think. Just stay out of women's business. I think that but we'll get into that. I want to kind of come to that when we come to it. But I thought like so I mean, well, a question for me, for example, Alex, is very important question. Where was Shiloh?
yeah, that's a biggie.
That was the biggest question because I think that you can only just gauge by his behavior what his reasoning was. The question that you just brought up about Naeem, but in general, the biggest question, because I kept looking at it when they did the the scenes, they dropped the scenes, but before the reunion actually occurred, and I said there are only what is it, 22, 23 people, so one is missing, and that was Shiloh.
Right. And the other question, or why is Shiloh missing? That's a big thing because her episode with Phil was a huge thing. Obviously, that incident was not filmed, and the audience want answers. So apparently, she's running from that, or she's dancing around it or skating away from it for whatever her reasons. But also the other thing is, why does Camille, despite being videoed and recorded, still deny what she said? I don't I don't
Yeah,
I don't get it.
yeah, those are some good questions that we're going to get into it as we go along. So as they open up, we see that we have a new host. We find out immediately that nephew Tommy is down with he has the virus, and he's dealing with that, and so he couldn't come in to be safe and to keep everybody else safer. We have Tanisha, I think it's Tanika Ray. Tanika Ray is her name, is the hostess, and she looks lovely. Everybody's dressed up in the women in their gown and the men in whatever different various attire that they have on. Speaking of attire, what did you think for the men? What did you think? Who do you think was the sharpest dressed man there? And some of the outfits that you like for the men, and then I'll take some of the ladies if you don't mind.
Well, for the ladies, it was a complete fashion show. They all looked lovely. Um, like them, love them, hate them, whatever. They all looked very lovely. They were dressed very well. All the ladies were. Um, as far as the gentlemen, I think Dante just a smooth dude. He looked good in what he was wearing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I think Phil, he's another one. He's a cool cat. He looked smooth in what he was wearing.
He
Um,
did. I really liked what and what I liked about it. It complimented the woman that he was with, Sydney.
right. So I think those two stand out. Um, but I think
Well,
for the
what?
most part, the
Well, what
gentleman was
about?
dressed.
Well,
Yeah,
what
go ahead.
about? I'm sorry. What about Cornelius? I have to ask you. What about Cornelius? What about his
Well,
attire? Would you
yeah,
wear that out?
I was just getting ready to get to that. I'm not sure why he or Naeem kind of selected that specific attire for themselves, or whether the women chose it for them. I don't know, because Zadia and Naeem had similar colors. They had a color
Yes,
scheme going there. If you noticed that.
I did. Yeah. I did notice that. I thought, let me say this. This is so funny to me because I saw it afterwards. In full length. I thought, just sitting watching him, because he was sitting down when I saw him. I thought that Cornelius. I thought he had on like a jogging suit of some sort, some kind of satin jogging suit. I was like, what? What is that? Like, really?
It looked like some kind of Asian attire, or something that Bruce Lee would have worn back in the '70s or something.
Yeah, yeah, it
Um,
was giving kind of martial arts. I mean, when I saw it later, when he stood up, I mean, actually, it was below his knee. It was a jacket. It was a coat that went all the way down, but it wasn't like I thought, because I thought it was just a jacket, and I thought, okay, it's satiny, and it just looks like really crazy. And then he also had like a gold grill on his teeth. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but he had a
yeah,
gold grill on.
yeah, everybody's talking about the gold grill. I'm not sure, because he didn't have that during the season. So why would he have it then? I don't understand.
I don't get it either. I mean, like, he's really out there. He is, like, for someone that's supposedly that is a aeronautical engineer. He is so far out there than any engineer I've ever met or known. He is just like, he is really into his creative side. That's all I can say about him. He's really into his creative side.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with reinventing yourself. Sometimes you have a long career, and sometimes you become tired of it. You've done it for so long, and you go into something where you want to reinvent yourself and explore other
Mhm.
talents and other options. But yeah, he's kind
Mhm.
of out there. He's kind of out there with this modeling thing and other things that he's doing. Yeah, he's kind of out there right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in the modeling that I've seen that he's focused on in his IG page, all of that modeling seems to be basically him semi-nude, like, from the waist up. It's I don't know. It's just it's different. It's
Well,
he's really different.
well, it may be a thing. You got the body, show it. He's still got enough youth on him, and he still maintain his frame. They always say, if you got it, show it. If you want to show it. So I guess that's what he's
Hmm.
doing. That's
Hmm.
part of the sales pitch. That whatever
Okay.
he's selling, that's part of it. So
Yeah,
you know,
I think he and his lady Camille, I think they're both trying to sell something to us. I'm not sure if I'm buying it, but it's they're definitely trying to. They seem to be in an alliance to sell something, and I guess that's maybe a TV career, maybe a acting career. I'm not sure, but in any case, yeah, I agree with you. I thought Dante looked nice. I thought Phil looked really nice, and on the women's side, I love the gown that at least what I could see of it, that Tasia had on. I love the color on her. I thought she looked really good. I didn't really particularly care that she had to stomp off in the middle of the show, but she did. Um, I like I liked Sabrina especially. I liked her look. I liked her gown, her jewelry. I loved her hair. I thought it looked really nice, and I also thought Sydney had on a really sharp gown too. I
well, I
really
tell
loved her.
you, what Sabrina had on, and I tell you,
Hmm.
she had that leg out, and I was
Right?
I was licking the screen. If I could have got to that leg, oh my goodness gracious, she had that leg out.
Oh my goodness. What were you gonna do, Alex? What were you gonna do if you could have got to her leg? Because
I just told you I'd have been licking that leg. I just told you what I would have done.
okay, okay. I'm sure she wouldn't have allowed that, but okay, all
Mm.
right.
I would have started from the ankle and worked my way up.
PG-13.
Yeah, whatever.
Hmm. So as we get started, we see that they brought Sean in, from the original curveball. We know that Sean was the guy that they brought in, and then we know Sydney was the lady that they brought in when they were having a pool scene, and they were introduced to the other singles to kind of break up things and to kind of stir up some stuff. And Sean promptly did his job. He went out with Aisha. He went out with Sabrina, but I think it was when he got to Sabrina and apparently went out on the date with her, met her at her home and was kind of ambushed by her 5, 6, 7 friends. I call them the Fab Five. So I think it was five of them that were there at her home, and they had heard that that he said that he was afraid that he might hurt her down the road. So they had a lot of heat for him, and he ended up, of course, subsequently that same episode being eliminated. So they brought
Yeah,
him back to talk about his time on the show and why, when he was eliminated, that he was praising the Lord. And I thought it was both funny and really ironic and true what he was saying, that we should praise the Lord at all times. So
right.
I agree with him on that. You praise him in good and in bad, because in all things be thankful and give thanks. But
But
yeah, I
I think
thought
he
that
just
was
felt like
mhm.
a weight was lifted off of him at that point, and that's why
Yeah.
he said hallelujah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think Sabrina's family, I think one of her relatives actually said to him, "It seems like to me you're running game," and so
Mm,
and
mm.
and I just think in that he might have been insulted by that. He may have been offended by that. I don't think he believed he was running game. I don't think he was running game because he said at the end of the day he had to be honest with himself and say, I want to have children. I have an urge to be a father.
Yeah,
So,
he sure did wait late in life to all of a sudden feel that urge. I mean, what is he, like 46, 47? Men kill me with that crap. But I agree that that seemed to be what he was talking about, but it just seemed like he had been very wishy-washy and flippy-floppy throughout the earlier part of his life. I mean, you get to be 30 years old, and if you're called to have children, or you think you want to have children, why aren't you thinking about it in your 30s when you're starting to become established? But I don't know,
well,
maybe for him he was late in life getting established. And now what you're going to say, go ahead.
yeah, well, no, it's just that, men, we don't go through, menopause and things that women go through. And if we're healthy, we can produce children. If we're 90, we can still produce children, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
it's true you can produce children, but it's also true that there's a higher rate of disorders and things that are wrong with babies. And they've now figured out, scientists have now figured out, who've been studying this for years, that a lot of the things that come from autism and different things and mental retardation that happens to children can be directly tied to the father's sperm if he's an aged person. So I mean, why would you want to have a child when you got 1 foot or a foot and a half in the grave? I'm not understanding that. I don't understand that.
well, and listen, you're a biblical person, you're a spiritual person. What was Abraham's reason?
No, 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 no. We don't do that here. We don't do that here. We don't do we
I
don't do
do. You don't do
Okay.
it.
Okay, but I'm just saying,
Mhm.
I don't get it. I don't think there's a real in modern day, I don't think there's a real point to a guy waiting forever to have children. I think what a lot of guys are doing is they're just talking out the sides of their neck. That's personally what I think. I think a lot of guys just talk like Frank, for example. Frank, saying about having a family, and Mumin is more family oriented, and that this, that, and the third. Just talking out the side of your neck. So women, be careful. Pay attention to these guys that are late 40s and 50s and still talking about all this blubber about having children, but yet they've never settled down and been married. Just pay attention. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Well, I mean, there are women who are career oriented early. They want to focus on their career and building, substantial resources or wealth, and they wait until their 40s or 50 to have children. So it kind of go both ways. It's not a man thing. It's just where you are mentally, because you cannot be a selfish person in any aspect and hope that and try to have children and be a good parent. So if you focus on your career or running the streets or focus on your education or building a business, any of that kind of stuff, and you want to put that first, then don't have any children. Put your children to the side until you are ready. And a lot of women and men have done that and had children in their late 40s, even 50.
I'm not saying what people can't do, but anyway, so we move on to the other curveball, and that's Sydney. And Sydney, they're showing her how her trajectory in the show. She comes in, and we see Phil. He's like really excited. What does he say? I think he says, "Wow."
Yeah.
He said,
Yeah.
She says he
He said
does
something about,
the
oh,
huh?
oh my Lord, or something like that. He said, but he was really stunned when she walked out there.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
think he said wow, but she said he did the prayer hands. You know, he put his hands together like, "Oh my God, you've answered a prayer." And but the interesting thing about him, unlike all the other guys that pursued her, he didn't go toward her.
right.
She had to kind of come toward him. So I think that was do you think that was by design or what? Or
Well,
did
I
he
think he
just
just he
go
was
ahead?
being who he is. He's a laid back kind of guy. I mean, you don't want to come across as thirsty because you see a beautiful woman walk in the room and you're like a hound dog, you know, kind of chasing her as soon as she walk in. You want to kind of, be a little bit laid back, feel out the situation, see what kind of person she is, see how many guys are going after her, see how you could differentiate yourself and stand out from the bunch. So that's the kind of approach that I would take,
Oh,
and
okay.
I think Phil took that approach.
Right. Do you think that maybe perhaps too that Phil could have possibly felt like, and I hate to use this expression, but do you think that Phil could have possibly felt as if Sydney was out of his league, so to speak?
I think you can feel that as far as looking at him. I mean, Phil's a nice looking guy. He's not an ugly man by no stretch. Um, but I think when you look at Sydney, you see her, you go, "Oh my God, this is a fantasy chick." I mean, she just looks beautiful. The way she looks, the way she walks, and everything else. That's a natural response. But then after that, you want to say, well, how is she if she opens her mouth? Is there any substance there? Is she somebody I can vibe with? All this other stuff starts to come into play because even if there's a physical attraction and you get to be with her for a short time and have some intimacy with her, if there's nothing to talk about, if there's no real connection, then what good is it?
Right. That's true. That you bring up a very good point. I mean, like you can have a relationship with somebody, but that doesn't mean, because they allow you into their space and, like you said, maybe perhaps become intimate. But now, is this really something? And then I guess, too, it depends on, for both parties, both Phil and Sydney, or the male and the female, what are you really truly seeking? Are you seeking a serious relationship? Are you seeking another notch on your belt? Or, you want to have another partner? Or are you really looking for love,
Yeah, that's the big question, and that question has come out over the last few days. You see some other interviews, you see IG lives. That question has come out about people like Frank. Was Frank really looking for love, or just playing? That question has came out about a few of the cast members. So and Naeem even addressed that on the reunion show. I mean, he came out of left field with it, but he did bring it up. Are they looking for friendships? Are they looking for clicks? Or are they really looking for love? Kind of situation. So there's a lot of suspect activity that has gone on with that. So it's a good question that you asked. It's a good
Mm,
question.
and it's interesting that you should bring up suspect too. So, but I won't get into that. I won't get into my thoughts on some of the characters that came to Ready to Love this season. And
But what
of
did you?
course,
But what did you
go
think
ahead.
about? What did you think about the way Tyrone apologized to Carrie and addressed her differently than he should have on the show and acknowledged? Because this is very important, Aubrey.
I was going to ask you. It's funny you brought that up. Go ahead.
No, because the way, first of all, Tyrone admitted he was wrong. I could have addressed it differently. This is the way I should have done it. And if I had the opportunity again, I would do it this way. And displayed to us what he should have said to her and looked at her when he said it. Okay, so there's a sense of sincerity there with Tyrone that you don't get from some of the other cast members, where they don't have any self awareness. They don't want to right any of the wrongs. They don't want to address it properly. In fact, want to continue to lie and disguise their behavior or defend their behavior. Tyrone didn't do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tyrone didn't do that.
He did not. You're right. And you're right. I have to give him a lot of credit. I love that he came back and he addressed Carrie, and he was able to, take responsibility, take accountability, because I don't feel like he necessarily, I don't know if I want to use the word intentionally, but I don't think that he meant for it to sound as bad as it did. I guess I do mean intentionally when he said that to her. But what I get out of Tyrone, which I think is an interesting study in people and the way we work and the way we process information, I feel like he was the wrong person on the wrong show. I feel like this process in and of itself was too overwhelming for him, dealing with PTSD that he dealt with, that he deals with. And I feel like also that not every person wants to date multiple people at the same time. And we can even look to Cornelius to see that he's not a person that's good at dating and seeing multiple people until he narrows it down and makes a selection. Because some of the people that come on this show, they continue to want to date the way they've always dated, but the show, supposedly you're supposed to be trying to see multiple people to break out of some of your old patterns and see if maybe, I think also the type of person you're used to picking is maybe you need to pick a different person, right?
Well, I've been saying that the whole time, and that's why I was saying early on why Sydney and Frank would never work. Come to find out later on, now that the show is over and they're in the reunion portion, why they wouldn't work anyway for a number of other reasons. But that's neither here nor there. But I kind of saw early on that that kind of commonality would not work. You need something different to kind of balance you out, an opposite of what you are. They say opposites attract. So you need that. You don't need anybody who's just like you. You might as well just date yourself if that's the case. So I kind of think that the show's intended purpose a lot of times was not lived up to. There was a lot of toxicity there.
Right.
There was a lot of, of course, creating these cliques and things of that nature for um, different nefarious reasons. That's living now beyond the show. Okay, because I tend to go on a lot of the IG lives after the recent episodes, and not to be trolling because I ask legitimate questions, and to their credit, whether it's Zadia or Sabrina or Sydney or whoever, they tend to answer the questions. They do. I'll give them credit for that. But you can get a lot of insight from the IG lives and things after the shows take place to kind of get more in depth with the people that are on the show.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I really do get that. I think that because I watched a couple of them too. I think I've seen Sydney, one or two of hers, and I really actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed Sydney's IG live. She seems very sociable, very comfortable within herself, and just a very friendly person. But when someone was chatting in the IG live and they were saying negative things, she just talked to him and said, I'm not going to entertain all these negative questions. You seem to be very negative, and I think I'm going to have to block you. But she was very pleasant and very nice to the other people, and she just seemed to be herself. I mean, she seems like a very bubbly person. But yeah, to get back to where we were, though, I wanted to just finish up on Tyrone. I think that Tyrone, just looking at him and looking at the little time that he was on the show, and then I actually went over to his IG. I didn't see an IG live, but I just saw, looked at his page. I looked at several things that he posted. He did have some videos that he had shot. They were very brief, like little shorts and talking about his day, his workout and whatnot. I just get the feeling that for him, he came on this show and it was just overwhelming. That's what I get. And I think, and I say that to go back to when he was apologizing to Carrie. I think that in the moment when he first said that she was aggressive, she was too assertive, that it turned him off and that he didn't pick her, he didn't like her, or whatever that was that he said to her exactly. I'm paraphrasing now. I think that in the moment, I think that he was just frustrated and overwhelmed, and she was the target. She became the target, but not that it was all because of her calling him and asking him questions, which I thought was a little forward too. For me, I personally wouldn't have called the man that I just met and just started to say, well, am I the one, or do you still care about me, or do you still like me? I wouldn't have done all that. That's just too much work, and it's too early on, right? But but I just felt like he was kind of caught up in something that was too much for him. And that you see that with people that get eliminated early on this show is for one or two reasons. When they come on Ready to Love, they get eliminated because, quite honestly, physically they're not the attractive person that Ready to Love formula would say is attractive. And by that I mean they might be they're just not attractive. Let me just say that. I'll just say that. And then the other thing is they don't have the social skills and the wherewithal socially to navigate dating multiple people. That's the other thing that you see when people get eliminated early. And I think Tyrone was the latter of that. He was the second one. He didn't
And that's
have the
the
social skills.
that's the economy we face, though, Aubrey. Because you're saying you wouldn't have called and asked all these questions, and you wouldn't have done this, that, or the third.
I
But
wouldn't.
you're kind of in a quandary because if you don't pursue, then you're not interested. If you overly pursue, then you're thirsty and aggressive or whatever. So
Hmm.
what do you do if you're interested? If you're an interested woman in a guy, okay, if you don't want to call him, ask him a bunch of questions, how do you proceed, Aubrey? You tell me, how would you proceed in that situation?
Oh, I'm going to let him know that I'm interested if I am, in fact, interested, or if I'm still in the process of maybe determining if I'm interested. So, if let's say, okay, for example, if I was in this program and I was dating and I was dating multiple guys, the first thing I'd want to do is spend enough, excuse me, a tickle in my throat. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Um, the first thing I would do is want to spend enough time, have enough conversation with each of the guys that I felt a physical attraction to, right? And I would let them know because I would be present, so it wouldn't be. It's okay to call somebody, for example, to say good morning, hope you have a great day. But the opposite of that, or the extreme of that, is, well, good morning, I hope you have a good day, and by the way, am I your number one? You see the difference? I
Mm-hmm.
can call and say good morning, or I can text and say good morning, hope you have a great day. Or
Right.
later in the day I can text and say, good afternoon, good evening, did you have, how was your day, whatever. But like I said, for a woman, it gets into that same energy that we have from Shiloh with Phil. And it was later in the dating process where she kept hammering Phil to give her an answer. But my thing is that people are giving you answers every day by how they're operating and how they're moving. Men are giving women answers every day. Is he calling you? Is he texting you? Is he taking you out on dates? Those are the things that you need to be looking at, not as well as what he's saying, but more so really what he's doing. Because if a man wants you in his life, he's going to move heaven and earth to have you in his life.
Yeah, but what if? Okay, because a lot of stuff behind the scenes we don't get to see. Obviously, when they had this incident, it was 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and apparently it was Courtney's birthday, as I heard one of them say before. They were out celebrating
Oh, oh,
Courtney's
oh,
birthday, and
okay.
and they had a few drinks or whatever. Phil didn't drink much, but Shiloh felt free to have a
How do
few
we?
drinks
How do?
or whatever.
Okay. I'm sorry. How do we end up here at the Phil and Shiloh
Because you just
situation?
mentioned Shiloh, you just mentioned Phil and Shiloh.
But I was simply mentioning her in terms of her asking him about, about making sure that she's his number one.
Right, right, I was getting into, well, if you're dating a person off camera, let's say you're at their house, you're seeing them, you're calling them all the time, maybe you're
Okay.
even intimate, right? You might
Okay.
even be intimate, but because you haven't said the words "you're mine" or "I want you," then that leaves a lot of confusion, a lot of gray area, typically for a woman. See, a man, it's
Right.
hard to get us to say those words. I mean, we'll go to bed with you, we'll hang out with you, we'll drink with you, we'll do all those different kind of things. But to get
Right.
us to say those words, that's a whole different beast, you know. And
Right.
I think that because he didn't say those words and they maybe shared some intimacies and some very private time, she might have felt that they were already there and had a sense of entitlement, and he just wasn't giving that. And I think she felt slighted and probably went off.
Okay. Okay.
You know what I mean?
I I
So,
I I see what
but
you're saying.
yeah, but let me ask you this though, because we started to say, and I don't want to skate over this, the fact that Shiloh didn't show up. And then after this, I want to get into kind of Camille's craziness and then get on Zadia and so forth. But in your opinion, why don't you think that? And I know it had a lot to do with this incident between her and Phil at the nightclub or whatever. But why don't you think she would show up and kind of face the music? Now, if you're a woman talking about you're a life coach and you're coaching other people through life and you're strong, you're independent, and all this stuff, why can't you just come and face the music? You're leaving the narrative up to everybody else to form this narrative, but you're upset about the narrative that's being formed. So we need your side of the story. Why not give it?
You just said it. I mean, you just said everything that needed to be said. That this is so true. Like what, I don't know why she didn't show, but I suspect that, like you said, it had to do with the incident that night, late at night in the alley at the nightclub. It had to do with that. That's what I suspect it had to do with, right? But I mean, why she didn't show? I think somebody said something about her. Speaking of interviews, so I think it was Frank that said was on from Crystal XO, who does a YouTube channel. He interviewed a couple nights ago with her, and he said that from his perspective, that Shiloh doesn't do well with rejection. And so I said that I've been saying all along throughout the season that Shiloh seems to kind of suffer from the pretty girl syndrome. She seems to have some type of, feels like she has some type of entitlement, that she can be so demanding toward Phil and anyone else. And I think that was the reason why at the end of the day, she was left with only Phil as a possible connection. I think the other men sensed that in her and they kind of moved away from her, because certainly physically she's very beautiful, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
She's
And
a very beautiful woman.
yeah.
Hmm.
And self-awareness is a wonderful thing. I mean, it just truly is. And the older I've gotten, and as I went through my 30s, my 40s, and things of that nature, I started to appreciate self awareness a lot more. Know thyself, knowledge of self. And a lot of people don't have that. They think they have it, but they disguise it by going, "I'm a strong person. I'm independent. I'm this. I'm that, and that." But you're not dealing with who you truly are. You're just not. You're masking it with all this other stuff. So I'm thinking that if this incident happened, right, maybe she had a couple of drinks too many or whatever the case is, and you don't want to come and face the music, maybe it's because in your own mind, you're totally unaware, you're not self-aware.
Hmm.
You want to defend the wrong at all costs. I'm not sure if this became some kind of underlining situation with the show, whether it became a legal situation. She can't talk because of that. I mean, I
It's
don't know.
possible. I think that it's. I think that we're looking at on this season. I think we're looking at a couple of situations, well, two or three that became could have become legal and could still be underneath that we don't know about behind the scenes legal. We're looking at an assault from Zadia to Dante. We're looking at the situation with Phil and with Shiloh, and we're also looking at the situation with Camille, verbally threatening on camera twice that she would F some people up, and she works in a situation that she works with people, and I would I would bet money that her HR department is watching this very closely, because you can lose your job for threatening other people, not just in the workplace,
And
right?
to quote Donald Trump, who I hate to quote, but it's adequate in this case. If
Oh
if
boy.
Camille did all that, she works for that kind of organization. She probably went back to work, and they probably told her, like Donald Trump, "You're fired."
Okay. Okay. I wish you wouldn't bring. I already have a headache. I wish you wouldn't bring his name up. But okay. I
You
don't know.
don't like
I don't.
Donald?
I don't know. I'm not feeling well, and I think sometimes you just purposely try to antagonize me. I really feel that way. So I don't know
What's
what's
wrong with
going
the
on.
Don? You don't like the
Okay,
Don?
okay. We're gonna get back to the show. We're gonna get back to the show. That's what we're gonna do. So I was going to talk about Phil and Sydney. So, what did you think that Phil says? Basically, that he didn't come on the show. He didn't need the show to find women to date. That he did come on the show with good intentions or serious intentions to find a lifelong love and a woman to marry and have a family with. What did you think of that as a man? Did you feel like that was sincere, or was he just talking out the side of his neck?
Well, it's the same thing we do with dating apps, right? We go on there and we roll the dice and see, because the conventional days of maybe going out and meeting a person in the street or the supermarket or the laundromat, whatever, we got to find new creative ways to possibly meet our lifelong mate, you know. And this is another situation where he probably was just rolling the dice, saying, "Listen, I've been out here, I still haven't found her. Let me take a chance and do this. Not saying I'm going to find her this way either, but I'm going to take a chance and do this." And I think that's what he was basically saying.
Excuse
And
me.
whether or not it's Sydney, because Sydney, although very beautiful, she's a lot of fun. She will go out and she will defend her man. She will defend her positions on stuff of that nature. I'm still not convinced that she's ready to do a wife family thing. Sydney likes to have fun. Sydney likes to party. So I'm not convinced that she's ready for this settle down wife. I want some children routine. Nothing tells me she's ready for that. Her behavior contradicts that.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess what I'm thinking is that, she seems like she might be on the verge of being ready to be married, but I do agree with you about the children. She does seem to be pushing that off till later. So maybe that's something that she thinks that she wants to just enjoy, like you said, that night scene a little bit more, that club scene. So that's a choice. That's a choice
and
that
and having
people make.
children,
Like you
and
said,
having children. I'm sorry, Aubrey, but having children a lot of times too. When you're a beautiful woman with a beautiful body, having children can scare some women because they look at other women and say, "Listen, that baby fat never came off." That scares them. So you get somebody like Sydney, who's beautiful, got a great body, and so forth. Maybe she'll have some children, and that baby fat won't come off. So that's frightening to a lot of women, which can cause postpartum depressions and things of that nature. Just saying.
well, okay, yeah, that's a good point. That she may be concerned about her figure and all those things to come after. I think that's a very good point, Alex. That's why I was saying I think that she may looks like she may be ready to consider marriage. But what I was gonna say was that, maybe she wants to wait a few more years to consider having children and see what that's like. And like you said, that's probably part of it, because we know that Sydney doesn't like clothes. She wants to wear the little straps of fabric that cover up the essential parts that need to be covered, so she's not arrested for indecent exposure. But but so that could be it all together too. That could be a part of it.
Yeah, yeah.
you know
Sydney wears that brand Seymour. You never heard of that brand Seymour? She wears Seymour clothes.
I never heard of the Seymour brand. What's that?
You see more her than you do clothes.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be true. That definitely seems to be true for Sydney. So now we're gonna fast forward on over to Camille
Oh Lord, oh
and
Lord, here we go.
Cornelius. Yes, yes, yes. So Cornelius and or Camille, I'm sorry, Camille was being questioned about why on the show was she so domineering, so overprotective, so trying to basically build a fort around this guy Cornelius, who at that time wasn't really her boyfriend, was just somebody that was on the show that she was seeing, but she didn't want to allow him to see other women like Courtney and Zadia, who, interestingly enough, I think you pointed this out, she ended up befriending Zadia, so that's quite interesting too. But anyway, but what do you think? What do you think about Camille and how she treated Cornelius and being so overprotective? Do you think that she was being overly controlling of him? And do you think that she was being, and I know some people aren't going to like this, but I'm going to say it. Do you think that she was being overly aggressive?
Well, I think she's just a little psychotic, to be honest with you. I guess
Mm,
there's a certain attraction to a woman who knows what she wants and goes after it, right? We always talk about that, knowing what you want and going after it, right? But there's a certain way that you
mhm,
do that, okay? And
mhm.
the way she did it was she did it in such a controlling, kind of psychotic, emotionally unbalanced nature. And I said this in episodes past as I watched the season progress. She began to befriend women that she knew either Cornelius was interested in or that had interest in him. And that's old school game. That's game from way back. You befriend
Right.
those women to keep them
Mhm.
closer to you, to keep your eye on them, to keep them away from the guy. That's what you do. Okay. So, in my opinion, this is why she started this Brown Girl Club and things of that nature, because there are a lot of women that she was threatened by. And she said, oh, no, I want to let them know this is mine. Stay away, but you still my girl. We can be girls, though, and do other stuff, but this is my guy. And I think she plotted that the whole way. And it worked out in her favor. But will it work out in the long run? I doubt it will.
Right. I doubt it will either. Oh yeah. Well, I have no doubt that her. You talking about her? You talking about will it work out between her and Cornelius, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I don't see that working out. That that's not even a real thing. I mean, honestly, again, and I'm not going to go into my thoughts on Cornelius and some obvious things that to me and a lot of women and a lot of people are very kind of obvious, but I think that he's with Camille on the show, and I think for it's like you said, I think they're interested in going into maybe acting. He wants to further his modeling career, but he's not serious about having a relationship with her or any other woman. I don't believe. He's
And
just not.
remember,
He's just
and
not.
remember, I think I heard this on another podcast. He said he spent a lot of time initially spending time with Tasia. That Tasia was more his type. He liked a more voluptuous type of woman. That they spent a lot of time talking on the phone, laughing. They were getting along great. And then he says, to kind of throw a wrench in it, oh, Camille, he saw Camille and that kind of like, oh, who's that? Ooh. Because, yeah, you'll see that. You'll see Camille, pretty woman. She got the hips and the body. Yeah, you're gonna see that. Okay. But he was more focused at the time on Tasia, according to his own admission. This is who he was focusing on. And so in that regard, he didn't get a chance to really go through the process properly, because maybe if he had really connected with Tasia, that's who he would have been with. But when Camille came and decided she's going to block everybody and kind of scare everybody away, and he kind of bought into that, allowed himself, in my opinion, to be somewhat controlled, then she pretty much got her way. And as long as somebody get their way behaving that way, there's no need for them to change. So why should Camille change? There's no reason for her to change. She's not being held accountable, and she has
Well,
no
none of
self awareness.
Right. Well, right. And you're right. Camille is not being held accountable. And none of them, if you really pay attention, and you probably noticed this, the crew that hang together, the Camille's and the Corneliuses and the Zadias and, well, Naeem, who's the great apologist. Uh, this is what they do. These are some people that have some very toxic behavior, and they're in a very toxic circle. So I'm willing to bet. I'm not sure how many of the three. I don't know. I wouldn't put Naeem necessarily in the narcissist category, but of the three, out of Camille, Cornelius, and Zadia, I think you're dealing with some very narcissistic behavior. If you know anything about narcissists, in order to thrive, they also need something called enablers around them. So, like in that connection, you see that would be, for example, Zadia, the narcissist, and Naeem, the enabler. The way he tried to just apologize and over and apologize and defend, and everybody is jealous and all this deflection, but never can these people take any type of responsibility for their own action and behaviors. And they've got these women have these simp men, these very simpy men that are, trying to step in and deal with and block the women. Like, why, sir, are you in women's business? I mean, I think every boy growing up knew that you don't jump into women's business. When women are talking, you let women defend themselves. You go over there with the guys, okay? And you don't need to defend your woman. Ain't nobody jumping on her. These are all words. We're just having a conversation and maybe a disagreement, but you don't need to defend her. She's not a baby. She's not a child. She's a grown A woman. You go on over there with the guys and be quiet. And I think that's why Sydney made the comment, first of all, will one of these men get him? And then second of all, she said, you know what? You just need a peach. You just really want a peach, don't you? And she
Right.
was right. She was absolutely right about Naeem. He's just a real simp. He's a simpy
Right.
guy.
And the thing is, I don't, I don't want to resort to name calling. It's probably true, but I don't,
Okay, all right. Well, he's
I don't.
he's displaying simp like behavior.
Yeah, right. Yeah, usually,
Okay, okay. You
yeah,
you're correct. You're correct. You're correct because I don't want to be that person. You're right.
yeah. Use the clinical term. He's displaying simp
Well,
like.
we gotta. Well, what is not so much that it's not so much that it's even clinical, but I see what you're saying. There's a difference between describing the behavior and pointing out the wrongness in the behavior and making the person. I will accept that
Yeah,
critique and criticism. And you're right. You're right. See
and
see how
and
I
and
see how I accepted that and made a commitment to change. See there. That's how easy it is. By the way, if you're listening, Zadia or Camille, Naeem and Cornelius. It's just that simple to take critiquing from other people that want to see you be better and do better in life and just say, okay, I was wrong. I made a mistake. We're human.
and you know what's interesting about that? And you're right. Men should stay out of women's business, and I don't like women in men's business. I really don't. Stay out of it. Okay, but it's interesting. It's yeah.
But
It's
that's a
interesting
little
that
different. That's a little different. All women is women's business.
yeah, whatever. Stay out of men's business. Stay out of men's business. Y'all belong in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant. So stay there.
I'll let you have that laugh. Let me see. Let me see. I got something for you. I got something for you. Hold on. Hold it up. Why you want to play?
How you gonna use my own tactic against me? That's wrong.
But anyway, but you were saying
But
about Naeem. You were saying
no,
about
I was
Naeem.
saying I was saying about Zadia and dealing with critique. It's interesting you say that because, like I said, I go to their IG lives. I'm trying to get to know these people on a different level. So I went to Zadia's IG live, and of course Zadia, she seems to be a very nice person. Of course, she's very attractive and everything. And I ask questions on the live, and she answers them. I mean, I appreciate that, because everybody's on the live talking about how beautiful you are, you're great, and all that's great, that's fine. But I want answers to questions. Okay, so I asked her. I said, "How are you at taking constructive criticism?" And she said she's fine with it. She thinks she handles it well. She welcomes constructive criticism as long as it's not hate or condemning behavior, things of that nature. She would deal with constructive criticism. And that's all I wanted to know. Because if she ever comes on the show, and I did ask her to come on the show, she hasn't answered me yet. But I would like to talk to her because this is not, see, what they need to understand, Zadia, Camille, Shiloh, this is not a hate campaign. We're trying to understand behavior. That's what this is. If you are who you are, fine. But we're trying to understand what your thought processes are, what you're going through emotionally, mentally, when you're doing these things or making these decisions. What is it that's driving you? That's what we want to know. Nobody's jumping on you to hate you. So that's why I
Right.
ask these questions. And when they don't want to answer them, that's what made people think, oh Lord, they just stuck on themselves. They think they're entitled and blah blah. So you leave this narrative out there for everybody else to come to their own conclusions. Then you get mad at the narrative. Well, address the issues.
Right, right. Address the issues because the narrative is just that. A narrative is what Camille was trying to create, and Zadia too, trying to create an alternative. What you see with these people when they're trying to create an alternative reality, basically, oh, I didn't say that. Unfortunately, you're on a show where they actually have tape and audio of what you said and how you said it. Yeah, your finger was in your mouth, but we see your lips moving and we hear your voice. You're saying I will F you up. So you want to create an alternative reality. Um, that's something that somebody that is unstable does. But
Yeah,
everybody else, we're not unstable. We're regular folk. We done been our therapists and we've been cleared. We're okay. And we see what it is and we see what you're doing. We see how you operate and how you're being manipulative. You can't tell us that we don't see what we see and that
yeah,
we don't feel what we feel. But you can go on in your life And you can have these people, and that's why I said though too, narcissists need people who are enablers. So if you're out there enabling a narcissist, understand that you'll be used, but that narcissist in the end will never be loyal to you. Um, Camille will never be loyal to Cornelius, but Cornelius, on the other hand, who is also a narcissist, he will never be loyal to Camille. And I think the thing about him is he's only here for as long as it's good for him. He's not trying to find a wife to marry. He's not trying to find a woman to settle down with. I don't believe that at all. And I think that
Well,
there are a couple of, I'll finish saying this. I think there are a couple of men on that show that aren't looking for women to settle down with.
well, this is how cults are formed. You know, you get a strong personality, and they just find weaker people that they know they can control. Okay, that's how cults are formed. Okay, but
Absolutely.
but
Oh, it's interesting, but keep going because I got a thought. I wanna put a pin in my little mind here so I can come back to that. You
yeah,
bring up an
don't yeah,
interesting thing.
you don't lose your thought. But I do want to say that
Hmm.
Sabrina said what everybody else was saying. She was like, okay, I guess we're all crazy because everybody heard what she said. What's wrong with just finger in your mouth or not? You said it. What difference does it make whether your finger was in your mouth or whatever when you said it? Okay, why
Which
can't
was
you just why can't she just say, okay, I said it. I was thinking this at the time. I want to take the time now to apologize. I'm not a violent person. I was just in my emotions or my feelings or what's wrong with just saying that as opposed to I didn't say it? You know what
because
I
for
mean?
her, right, right. But in a regular situation where everything isn't recorded and everybody doesn't have a job that they have to go back to on Monday morning, probably no big deal. But in this real world where everything is recorded and they are on a show, which is part of the contract that they signed, that their likeness would be recorded, they would be recorded audio and on videotape. Having a regular job in the real world oftentimes requires that you have a certain amount of decorum and that you behave in a civil manner with other people. So I kind of go back to that. I think that everything was all fun and games until she went back to work and she considered it. And HR may be watching this, and she's probably told a number of her coworkers. And when the coworkers actually saw her behavior during the show, they were probably a little bit shocked and appalled. That's what I think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I really don't think so.
Yeah. I don't think so either. I think to just totally deny that you actually said something because one of the other bloggers have has said something that Zadia said on the show at the table. I guess they were at the retreat where Zadia said that Aisha is talking out the side of her effing neck. Right now,
Right. I heard that. Yep.
clearly Zadia said that, but on the reunion, she was like, "Oop, I said that." Like she didn't realize what she said. She
I
didn't know she.
heard that. I was like, wow. But
Okay,
and oh, go
so
ahead.
y'all so y'all just talk based out of emotion. Logic has nothing to do with it. Then you forget what you said. So how many times in your life has that come back to haunt you? How many times in your life will that come back to haunt you in the future? Take some time to sit back and think about what you're going to say before you say it. Stop running off emotion all the time because that's what's getting people in trouble here. This emotion, not thinking. That's what made her go back after she left, made her stomp back and put her finger in Dante's nose. Emotion, not logic, because logic would have said, let me keep walking and get out of here.
Right. That's what my logic would have said. I'd have been right on out of there. I'd have been embarrassed and I would have moved on. But you bring up an interesting point. So I want to go back to something you were saying, and I said I was going to put a pin in it. You were talking about cults. I Observation that I made on the men's behavior on well, one woman and one man. Okay, so the man is Naeem. Naeem is putting Zadia up on a pedestal because of her looks, because it's certainly not because of her personality, but he's putting her up on a pedestal because also he wants something from her. I believe he wants sex, he wants her body, he maybe wants a relationship with her, right?
Or
Okay,
maybe
and then
getting it already. Maybe getting it already.
could be. Okay, yeah, could be. But he's obviously, if that's the case, he still wants to continue along that line. And he knows that in the real world, Zadia would never been checking for him. He's a nerdy kind of guy, and I don't find anything wrong with that. Actually, I thought until he showed this lack of character and this huge flaw in his character, I thought Naeem was a really sexy guy. I happen to like nerdy guys. I happen to like scientific engineering type guys. I love them. I love them. I'm a sapiosexual. That's me. But but for Zadia, she may not be so into that. She wants a cool kind of guy. She wants a fine, good-looking kind of guy, maybe her more aesthetically pleasing to her with somebody like a Dante, right? But the thing about it is, whatever the reason, he put her up on an altar, he put her up there on a pedestal. And on the flip side, what I want to say is I feel like Camille put Cornelius up on a pedestal. She put him up on a pedestal because, she said he has these great looks, he has beautiful smile, he has great skin, we'll make beautiful chocolate babies together, but also because he has a great job, he makes a good income. Because you noticed her asking him at the very beginning, what did she do? She asked him about his finances. She wanted to see if those finances was financing, and she found out that they were. He don't owe nothing but except on his home, right? He's got good credit, yada yada yada. She's like, okay, cool, check that off, right? But all these people are putting people up on pedestals and they're worshiping them, and it's so funny to me that they put these people up on these pedestals and they're worshiping them. And that ties into when you were saying about a cult, because I said, you know what? Anything that you worship in this world is going to fail you. Anything
Yeah.
that you worship and you put up on this pedestal like it's so perfect, especially if it's a person, it's going to fail you. And you're going to be left completely embarrassed with egg on your face when you find out when you find out that that person or that thing that you put up on a pedestal is not a real true God.
Yeah, it's a form of idol worship. That's exactly what it
Yeah,
is. You're making a person an idol, and you're worshiping the idol until you get your heart broken. Because all cult leaders were that way until they did something to bring them back down to earth. Okay, and then the idol was shattered. Everybody was heartbroken. Oh, I thought he was this way. I thought he was that way. I didn't know he was molesting my daughter. I didn't know he was doing this and that. So it gets very scary when you start worshiping people and putting them up as idols. It's a very, very scary kind of thing. And we have to recognize if we're doing that. And a lot of people don't, and that's the trick in it.
right. That's it. That is the trick in it. And we see that. We see this, like I said, this very worshipy type behavior that Camille has toward Cornelius, and that Naeem seems to have. And even though, like, this is the thing. So, like, I guess I don't know during the reunion. So they're still, because the reunion's taped like in October. So I don't know. I'm wondering, did not Dante, did Naeem get to see the part where when Zadia does walk back to Dante during that scene with the finger in the on the nose, where
Right.
she tells him that she was going to pick him. So, like, does Naeem know that he's like second best? Or does he care? Is he just that kind of guy that has no pride in himself and has that low self-esteem? Because it's really odd to me. He's just a really odd guy now with his behavior.
Well, right now he's looking at the fact that she's very pretty. She has such a beautiful body. She works out. She does all that kind
Mm,
of stuff. That
yawn,
he'll look past.
yawn,
He'll,
yawn.
no, don't play hate.
I'm not hating. You know me. I'm not a jealous woman. But what I can't stand is once somebody shows their ugly personality, they become very ugly to me physically. So I mean,
Well, the
she
the
ain't
point
got
I make.
nothing, no equipment different than mine, but just maybe a little
Well,
bit
hey,
higher up.
right. The point I'm just making is he'll overlook a
Oh,
lot of
right. The
stuff.
man, a man will, yeah. They're
Yeah,
silly
yeah.
like that sometimes.
Honestly, I've slept with women I disliked just to sleep with them
Well,
when I was
and that's
dating.
what I hear a lot of men say, and that's my whole entire point. You just made it. Thank you, sir. You
You
just
know,
made it. A man will sleep with anything, anyone.
Mm.
They'll sleep with, it's just a whole the ugliest woman. Years ago when I was a preteen
Oh,
and
don't
we were
clear
in
your throat
church.
now. Don't clear your throat now. Get it right. Get it right.
When I was a preteen, I'm not feeling well, Alex. So you can just stop that right now. But when I was a preteen years ago, really seriously, there was this girl. There was this girl, and I feel bad because honestly, she was very unattractive, very physically unattractive. Just she was rough. She was rough looking, and she had had a rough life. But there were a number of guys that ended up going out and sleeping with her. I don't even know if they took her out, but they like, it was like, it was so embarrassing. Like, apparently her self-esteem and her self-worth was so low that she felt like if they just, basically bought her a McDonald's hamburger or something to that effect, that it was okay that she take them back home and they would have sex with her. And that's how I know that that meant for a man, it's nothing to sleep with a woman. You know,
Mm-mm.
it's just nothing. That's how little they care about their bodies and their penises. So
Well,
I
when
mean,
they, I always say this, Aubrey. I mean, a hard penis is a terrible thing because we don't think straight when we're younger. We just don't. That's the
yeah.
number one thing. When we wake up in the morning, how many women can we conquer? That's what we wake up with in the morning when we're younger and going through life. So I know women the same way the woman you described, the young lady you described. I know women like that as well when I was younger coming up. So they're
Yeah,
out here.
I felt bad for her because I mean the men just used her and they had no kind of thought about her emotional well being or how she would feel,
Who
just
cares
let
about that?
uh, right. But okay, so moving on to
Well, I do want to address one more thing with Naeem and Zadia before we move
yes.
on, because it's and what the story you just telling, it's always the path of least resistance.
Well, right.
Um, but with Zadia, I want to know what you think, because Naeem's way of defending her was during the first episode, Zadia was numero uno with all the men, 8 out of 9. Okay, but as the season waned on and getting toward the end game, she fell practically way to the bottom. So why do you think he had to bring that up at that pivotal moment in the show when nobody asked him nothing to begin with, to say Zadia was top pick in the first
Well,
episode?
yeah, besides his simp like behavior in answering a question that was clearly the host clearly asked Zadia. She said Zadia. His name is not Zadia. I don't know. I think again, I think he wants to make himself feel good. So I think like he's able to say something like that. He wants to bring that up. That right there is his own vanity right there. That's him saying he's taking care of two things at one time. He's making her feel good so he can, still be with her, like you said, if he's with her, sleeping with her, whatever. I don't know. I don't really care. But he can be with her some more. But then he's also to the guys and to the fellas, he's letting them know, hey, I got the woman that you guys all wanted to bag. You guys all had her up in your but what he's not considering is very illogical from a logical, pragmatic stance, is that what you're saying all the guys liked her in the beginning, but as they got to know her and she opened up her mouth and revealed her personality and her character, they really weren't so tough about her at that point. So you're not really saying nothing. You're just blowing hot air, right?
Yeah, because remember me myself in the earlier podcast, I was way high on Zadia. Remember, you used to get on me and laugh at me, but I was very high on her early on. You remember that?
I do. But like I
Yeah.
said, I just, that just lets me know where your head is. So I don't know.
Which one? Which
you
one?
know, it's a PG-13. It's a PG-13 podcast, sir. So now we'll move on. What do you think? So on Zadia, the brown girl gang, it was brought up and mentioned that Zadia got a pass because she was part of the brown girl gang. Um, what do you think that whole brown girl gang was about? Was it about colorism as well as being mean girls?
Well, I think the other cast members felt it was colorism. Whether it was colorism or not, I don't know. But I
Hmm.
think for me, it was probably more to do with personality. People with similar personality traits and those who could easily be influenced or controlled. To think,
Now I
to
think
think,
that last part, what you just said,
yeah,
easily controlled, right? Like
to think,
Mumin and
yeah,
Zadia. Mm-hmm.
to think a certain way. Okay,
Right.
controlled and influenced to think a certain way. And I think that group of people, you know, ordinarily would normally get together because they got more commonality, right? But I think
Right.
it may have been coincidental that they just seem to be the darker ones and so forth. I don't know. Some of the other cast members think it had a lot to do with colorism, but based on the history of this thing,
Hmm.
light skin, dark skin, there's a history here. So that
Okay.
makes it that makes it very, very touchy, in
Okay.
that regard.
Right. That yeah, that and that it is. Well, I'm gonna add something, then we're gonna move on to the next topic. I want to add that I'm sorry, did you cover everything on that?
Yeah, I
Your
did.
feelings
Uh-huh.
about that? Okay, because I felt like they were just more mean girls like you. I felt like it was probably a coincidence, but the coincidence that wasn't a coincidence. Like I go back to the fact that who started the gang, I feel like, or the group or club or however you want to call it or name it. I think that the person that really started it and drove it was Camille. And I think that you're right. She had some willing participants. Movement kind of goes along with a whole lot of things. We see movement going along with a whole lot of bad behavior, even with the men. So she's very pliable and very impressionable. And then to Zadia, who thinks she's so tough, but she's not as smart as she is tough, unfortunately. So she went along with it, but she didn't know that what really I believe, like you pointed this out. You were the one that said this right away, and I'm going to give you credit. This is your theory, your idea, and I totally agree with it once you said it. Is that Camille was getting Zadia on board with her so that she could keep Zadia away from Cornelius. And that's exactly what she was able to do by befriending her, creating this group and making it about loyalty and the girl code and all the things that a club and a group is about. That meant that Zadia was not going to go after her man Cornelius. And
Right?
that's exactly the way that panned out. And
Because
so she shorted herself on that.
because Cornelius clearly stated when Zadia, when they were about to, I guess, send him home at one point, he was at the bottom of the list one week, and Zadia had to tell him whether he was ready to love or not, and he openly said, "You were at the top of my list," and Zadia said, "You mean what? You mean I was?" He said, "What? You know, you still there?" Like that. Okay. Now I remember them saying that. Now I'm pretty sure if they said that and we all heard it, Camille heard it too. Okay, so at that point, she really stepped her game up to get Zadia on her side, to befriend Zadia, and so forth. So, there's a whole kind of scheming and thinking that goes into these kind of situations. It's not just by happenstance.
That's what I'm saying, right? That whole thing, that group was formed as because I would tell you a year from now, they won't be doing anything with that so-called group. I doubt if the three ladies will even still be friends. Maybe Moomin may be friends with Zadia, but I could see in this reunion, I could see Moomin pulling away from both of them. She was appalled at their behavior when they showed different clips during the reunion. Moomin
Mhm.
was appalled because she's a believer. She doesn't believe in that mean, that hateful behavior. But here's one other thing I want to add, and we're going to move on. I want to just add that something I picked up from, like you said, from the lives and from watching them, something else that I think that is going on that's wrong mentally and emotionally with the two women, Zadia and Shiloh. I'm going to bring Shiloh back into this, even though she wasn't at the reunion. I feel like there's an interesting dynamic going on with both of those women. They're actually very short. If you observe the promo pictures with all the women in them, you know, Shiloh's very short, and so is Zadia. And Zadia talks about it in one of her lives. And I think that this was something when she was growing up. She was clearly bullied. She was bullied, and I think she was bullied because she came to this country from Panama. So I'm assuming that coming from another country, more than likely, even if she speaks English, she speaks it with an accent, right? And then to top it off, she's dark skinned. I don't have a problem with it, but again, we're talking about colorism was part of what we were talking about with this brown girl game before we move on. But also being a short person, me myself being a medium height woman and being medium height, relatively tall when I was younger, considered taller, I never had this problem. But I could see where that would be an issue if you're a short girl. I think that people often talk about the Napoleon complex, but nobody ever stops to think about how do short women feel. How do
Right.
short women feel, and do they get bullied in school? And is there a whole big old thing about being a short girl, right?
Yeah, the Napoleon complex is always referred to with men, but no one ever considers short women in that equation. Never.
Mhm.
And I think short women also have that Napoleon complex as when it comes to their taller counterparts. Now, having said that, Sabrina, who's a very tall, beautiful woman, she comes from another country.
Right.
Okay,
Also from another
she
country. You're right.
she was teased horribly. If you let her tell it, she was teased horribly coming up. She didn't have a lot of friends, and
I
even she
believe it. I
and even
believe it.
she was teased so bad to the point where she said that she blocked a lot of that out. She don't even remember a lot of it. People come up to her and say, "Hey, Sabrina, remember me?" And she'd be like, No." because she blocked so much of that stuff out. It was so horrible for her. The upbringing
Wow.
was so hard. She blocks it all out. So it goes both ways. Whether the woman is tall and thin, or short and dark or light, everybody gets it. There's nobody off limits. You know what I mean? Kids are cruel by nature. They're going to find a way to pick on somebody for something. Whether you're fat, whether you're skinny, whether you're short, whether you're tall, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, they're going to find a way to pick with you. And it's
Yeah.
up to you to be mentally strong enough not to let that get inside of you and live there. Because that's the key. It'll bother you for a moment, but when it gets to the point where it takes up residence in your mind and in your heart, that's what
Mhm.
becomes dangerous and travels into your adulthood and has an effect on how you treat other people throughout your life.
Right. I think you bring up some good points, but I think we're not gonna dedicate this show to bullying, but I think there's a lot more involved to that. But you bring up the points that are really major is to not let it seep in and affect your every moment of your life. But I think if you're a child, you need to get help. You need to seek help from a parent, a clergyman, a trusted person, a trusted adult, or even a big sister, big brother, older cousin, someone. You need to start sharing, a counselor, a teacher. You need to start sharing that, because, and I've told you this before, bullying today is not the same bullying as maybe when we were kids. It's not. It's definitely not the same. It's much more vicious, and it's much more has much deeper reaching consequences. So I want to move on. I want to stay on to the topic of the show.
Well,
um
I got a question for you, and it's not about bullying. This is about the next topic of discussion that I want to get to.
okay,
Okay.
go ahead, because I have one too, but go ahead.
Yeah. What is it with these women these runners? They're running from confrontation. I'm like, I don't get it. How can you sit up here and say I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm independent, I'm this, I'm that, and the third? And somebody asks you a question and you run out. I mean, I don't. Where is this coming from? This is Zadia. Tasia did it. Shiloh didn't show up. I mean, what's going on with this running crap? I mean,
Mm.
I don't
Hey,
get it.
hey, Simone. Hey, how you doing? She says, hey, Aubrey, and she says, hey, Alex. All right,
Hey,
thank you
hey,
for your
Kia.
support. Thank you for coming through. We sure appreciate it. I
Hi,
don't know.
Kia.
I don't know why so many women are runners and track stars. I don't know.
I mean, they turn into track stars immediately. Now, if you're a strong, powerful, independent woman, and somebody asks you a question that may be a little bit gritty or maybe a little hardcore, you stand there and answer it. This is not an episode
Right,
of more. This is not an episode of Maury Povich. You get up and run to to the back. You are not the father. That's not what this is. So why are they doing that? I mean, with the Sia ran off, unless they edited something out, there was nobody even talking to her. What's she run out for?
right.
I don't get it. That's kind of escaping me. This is the time on these reunion shows to deal with the mess, to clear it up, to get your side of the story out, and you can't do that by running. You're just not gonna get nothing accomplished that way.
Right, I agree with you. I don't know, like, so with Tasia, I think the thing what I see is that maybe she said something about her mother being ill and in the hospital. But my thing is on that's an executive decision. If my mom is ill and in the hospital, guess what, baby? I'm gonna be right there with my mama. So I don't know what she doing, but and then I hear the other thing that we don't know as viewers though. Those reunion shows can run the taping of them, even though we see an hour or two here and there. The taping of it can be like a 12-hour ordeal. So these people are dealing with hunger issues, and they're tired and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know either. I just know that that's the time. Yeah, I know about productions and stuff, and the lights get hot, and there's a lot of time waiting while they're setting up the lights and the sound, and there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on with the setup and behind the scenes and things of that nature.
Right, right.
But but they say once that camera starts rolling, get in character, get ready. That's why they say lights, cameras, action. Okay,
Right, right. And
it's
this is
time
what
to
you signed. My thing is, this is what Tasia. This is what you signed up for. Shiloh, this is what you signed up for. You signed up to be on this show. You signed up to allow these people to tape you in the commission of dating. and to come back and to report back about how the season went. So come back and show up. Just show up, right?
Right. And
That's
look,
what I think.
nobody has to agree with your side of the story. But if it's your side and it comes from an honest and truthful place and you feel good about it, then so be it. We don't have to agree, but at least give us, the objectivity to hear it, and say, okay, well, I kind of understand where she's coming from. That's why I go to the lives, because when it comes to the lives, they're a little bit more open, they're a little bit more lax. There's no whole bunch of production crews around and people around and so forth. So you can probably learn a little bit more from those lives. But I think now that they have their 15 minute of celebrity, right? Because whether they ask for it or not, they're celebrities right now. It may be fleeting, but they're celebrities right now. So
Right, that's what
the,
it
the
is. I mean, and
so
the goal is to maybe take your product and your whatever it is that you, because not to cut you off, but I gotta say this. I didn't realize until just earlier today or late yesterday. Did you know that all the women on this year's show are ready to love? Every single one of those women are entrepreneurs. Every single one of them.
that's what they said. That's what they
Right.
said.
So they're all entrepreneurs, and many of the men too. So what they're really there for is to promote their product, their brand, themselves. They're like Zadia, a personal trainer, Shiloh, an intimacy coach, guru, which I don't know how that's working out, but okay. If you say so, if you
Yeah.
like it, I love it, right?
But
But
but, but of course, but of, you funny. But of course, this show was shot during COVID, and COVID has forced a lot of people into becoming entrepreneurs because a lot of them lost their jobs or chose to leave the job to explore more opportunities and so forth. So yeah, everybody's an entrepreneur now, but it's how you sell your product. It's how you go about getting your brand out there. And I think a lot of them, if you're doing a branding campaign, but you're lying and threatening and doing that kind of stuff, you're actually harming your brand. So you got to be careful with some of the things that you're saying or doing if you're trying to push a brand.
right, right. And I don't know if any of the people, I'm gonna say something else. So another commonality that I see this season that has really made it very difficult to watch for me, and I think for other people, is that a number of the castmates really seem to be very, very unacceptably juvenile in their behavior and how they carry themselves and how they move and operate. I mean, very, very, like almost like arrested development,
Hmm.
like they're still in high school. So I see that. And, again, comes to mind Zadia Camille, comes to mind Shiloh Tasia. I said earlier do, in our podcast, an earlier podcast, that I see a lot of the women operating in very masculine energy, and I will repeat that. I see a lot of women operating in very masculine energy, and I say that because if you're a woman and you're operating in your more predominantly in your masculine energy, I'm not really sure. I guess you are looking for a beta male or you like a beta male. And that's fine if that's what you like, because everybody's entitled to their own opinion and their own choice, right? But it just really makes for an awkward dating show when you have so many women being so aggressive and assertive and overly like domineering, and you leave no role for the man to play. I'm not really sure what role the man is supposed to play.
Well, I'm out for all day. Okay. You're not gonna
Are
pump
you?
me. You're
Are
not gonna.
you?
Yep. You're not gonna. Yeah. It's funny, but you're not gonna punk me. You're not gonna, call me out my name. You're not doing any of that stuff to me, and I'm just gonna sit there and go, okay, I'm sorry. No, you're not doing that because you can't pick it. First of all, I'm a man, whether you accept that or not. But you as a woman, you're not going to pick and choose when you think I should be a man. Now, when you want to talk crap in my face or belittle me or do this kind of stuff, then you want me to be that kind of man. But yet, when you somewhere in danger, now you want me to be the alpha. You want me to stand.
Right.
You,
Oh,
you want,
help me.
yeah,
Oh, it's a man there. He wants to harm me. Yeah, right.
yeah,
Exactly.
right. Like remember back in the day, Polly purebred and underdog. I'm telling my age now.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The cartoon. I
yeah,
remember. Right.
right. And Polly purebred was always help, help, you know, and then underdog will come flying out the sky and all kind of stuff, you know.
Right,
So,
sure would.
so listen, you can't pick and choose that. Because I'm going to be a man all day long. You know what I mean? Whether we in private or in public, you're going to
Okay.
know how to conduct yourself with me. Otherwise, you're going to get embarrassed. I'm just telling you. Because if
Right,
you
right,
try to punk me, you're going to get embarrassed. Period.
right. And I think, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm going to say just the last thing is, and don't
Oh,
even think about putting your hands on me, whether private or in public, because you're going to
right.
get embarrassed there too.
I think this season the women really pick and chose like people do, like people who are bullies and want to make those masculine, those violent plays toward people. They're gonna be careful about who they pick, and it's unfortunate because I don't agree with it. Somebody putting their hands on anybody, male or female, that's just wrong, and that's considered assault under the law. So I don't agree with it at all. And you're right, but some of these women, they're just picking and choosing what they want to do, and they want the men to be you're right. You bring up a very good point. I never thought of it that way. That some of the women want the men to be men only though at certain times. And that's a really interesting concept because that's not gonna work. That's just not gonna work.
And it's not just the women of this show. This is a rampant thing with this new generation. Whether these millennials, this is rampant, and somebody has to stand up and put a stop to it. We have to respect and protect our women, right? But
Right,
but but
right.
but,
I agree.
but not to put down and try to control and simp out and punk out our men at the same time. You can't do that either.
Hmm.
Okay, so the natural inclination of a man is to stand up and protect that woman. We'll gladly look if a car coming, you don't see it. We'll gladly push you out the way and get in front of that car. Grab. That's just in us to do it.
Right.
Okay, but don't say.
How about we both get out the way of the damn car? How about that?
Well, yeah, that's true. That's
How
true.
about we both live to see another day?
Right, but women do expect, and you're right, but women do expect the guy if it comes down to it, they expect the guy to die for them. They expect that.
Yeah,
Okay,
if you're my
so
husband, I do. If you're my
right,
husband, I absolutely do. You are called to die for me. I do expect that.
that's it. That's it. And most men would not have it any other way. But in knowing that, you can't turn around when we behind closed doors or in front of some other people and you want to play big shot, try to sit me out or whatever, or punk me or whatever the case may be. Because you're going to have a rude awakening if it comes to me.
Right. Well, right. Well, tell me this. So tell me this. What are we gonna say? What did you think about Frank? We're gonna close this out. So, what did you think about Frank and his many excuses for ghosting Movement uh this season? So after the season was over, after Ready to Love was over, clearly Frank, according to Moomin, he just disappeared. She said they didn't even go on any dates. So what do you think about that? What do you think happened, and why do you think he was making all those excuses?
Well, first of all, I think Movement got what she deserved, really, because Frank was an afterthought. She wanted Walter, period. And she got in her feelings because she thought that Walter picked Sabrina. Walter did not pick Sabrina. Walter was going through the process, and Mumin got in her feelings. If you ask me, looking back, Mumin was more for Walter because she was young. She didn't have any children. She wanted children. He liked
Hmm.
that younger woman dynamic, whatever.
Right.
She was more for him than Sabrina. And I think that's why Sabrina recognized a lot of things and said, "No, we're not doing this.
Right.
I'm gonna let you go your own separate way." So I think with Frank was an afterthought. She kind of was acting like a little child. Well, I'll just go over here, you know,
Yeah,
and
she
and
kind of did seem to have that temper tantrum. I agree with you. Right,
right,
right.
and Frank always really wants Sydney, but he know that she was kind of torn between him and Frank. But he knew that Sydney wanted something different, and she was kind of putting Frank in the friend zone. So in my opinion, he didn't want Moomin to begin with. He did that stuff for the cameras or whatever, and after the cameras went off, he promptly disappeared.
Exactly. Exactly. I agree with you. I agree
Yeah,
with you.
yeah. So, but the fact that the problem I had with Frank is he wasn't upfront and honest about his intentions. Be upfront and honest about your intentions. I mean, Mumin's father said, "Listen, don't waste my daughter's time.
That's
Don't hurt
all.
my
That's
daughter."
why. That's what I was talking about, Frank. Because yeah, so I think you bring up some very good points about Muming. I think though the other thing about Muming is we see that during the course of the season, she doesn't seem to have a lot of self esteem, a lot of self pride in herself. She seems to kind of be a person, a woman that goes with the flow. She went with the flow with Corey. I thought it was totally and utterly humiliating that a woman on camera, let alone even without a camera, would let a man get behind her and dry hump her on a log in public on a national, internationally televised show. I would have never done that. That's just me. But
What you got against dry humping?
um so I just find that she kind of went along with the flow. I think she went along with the flow with him. She went along with the flow with Frank because she could clearly see that Frank had no interest in her. Clearly Frank was more interested and more into Sydney and Sydney's aesthetics, because a lot of people have pointed out this season that Frank is even when she met the ex was a white girl, and clearly
Yeah,
Mumin is not white, right? So it just, there's nothing about Frank. Even at the end, it was kind of really uncomfortable watching them at the end on the on the finale where they choose each other. It was
right.
really uncomfortable watching him say those words that sounded very disingenuous. She sounded very disingenuous. And he said, she even asked him, like, almost like, you kind of know inside of her, like the way people react when they know something is untrue, because she kind of like threw in, and will you go to church with me, Frank? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll go to church with you. I call BS on the whole thing. I call BS on her part, and I call BS on his part. But I say I put more of the fault on Frank, because Frank is the one that's the liar. I think that if Frank had really showed up, Mumin was available for him. You get what I'm saying? She really
Yeah,
wants to find love. So I don't fault her for that. I think she's naive. And I think that, which brings me to another point I want to make. So that in dating, I think that women like Mumin and myself and other women who are out here that maybe grew up in the church, grew up in a home where you're sheltered, where you have a loving father, you tend to want to see the best in all men. And unfortunately, that's just not a fact. All men are not good. All women are not good. All people are not good. And you really have to suss out and vet out people, your friends of the same gender, people you're dating or whatever, however you're dating, opposite gender or same gender. You really have to vet people out and allow them to prove to you who they really truly are. Frank is not a good guy. He's
yeah,
not.
and a lot of women say, well, a lot of people say this, psychologists or whatever. If women grew up without a man in the house, then they're looking for a daddy, right? If they grew up with a positive male role model in the house and treated them very well and treated them like a little princess and so forth, then they spend their life looking for that. So either way, you have this picture in your mind of what the man should be, okay, and you're going to be looking. It's like them crackheads when crack was it was just rising up, right? And people take a hit of crack for the first time and they like, oh my god, we never felt nothing like this. And now they become addicts because now they're looking for the experience of that first hit again, and they never get it and they keep looking, so now they're addicts. Okay, so if you're going to keep looking for that, and the women keep looking for their father or what they didn't have in a father in a man, you're going to be looking for a long time and hopefully the rest of your life. You got to come to a point where you can decipher the goodness in people, what you like about a person, not necessarily your dad or so forth, because nobody's going to be able to outdo what your dad did. Come on now, nobody's going to be able to outdo that. So you got to be able to separate the two,
Right.
and say, listen, I know what a good guy looks like. I know what a good guy feels like. Energy is everything. Energy is very powerful. And that's why when you just brought up when they were trying to, when Frank was giving that old fake speech at the end, and I can sense in Mumin's body language. She didn't
Mhm.
believe that crap.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I absolutely saw that. That's why I said the whole scene with them was very uncomfortable. The other couples, it could have went either way. They could have said yes, they could have said no, and everything would have been fine. But with them, that whole thing, once I saw that it was him and her, because I knew that Sydney wasn't going to pick Frank. That was clear. That was made clear very early on. And I have no doubt that being that the two of them are friends, talking about Sydney and Frank. I have no doubt that Frank was able to get from her enough information to know that she was not going to pick him at the end. So he knew what he was up against. He knew that he was going to be meeting Mumi because he wanted to make it to the end because he wants to sell his brand of whatever liquor, alcohol, party, nightlife crap that he's in. That's what he wanted to do, and that's what he did.
Right, right. And are you finished making your point? Things. One more thing I want to say real quick before we
Yeah.
close out.
Well, we've got I've got one more topic that I want to cover. It's a brief one, but
Okay,
go ahead.
okay. Well, this is kind of a funny thing.
Hmm.
When the reunion show came on, I noticed that Carrington had blonde hair. Um, to the
Oh,
point where
okay.
I didn't even recognize him at first. I'm like, well, who's that? You know. And then the more I looked at him, I said, oh, that's Carrington, right? So I'm like, well, the blonde hair don't do it for me. Why does he have blonde hair? So when after the show, Sydney was on live, and Carrington was with her, and his hair is black again. He got regular black hair again. He's a nice looking guy, right? And I asked him in Sydney's live. I said, yo, my dude, what's up with the blonde hair? Kind of thing. And he stated that he had been coming from a Halloween party with a blonde hair and the costume, fit. He had to have the blonde hair for the costume, and he didn't have a chance to change his hair color back before the reunion. And Sydney kind of signed off on that. She said, "Yeah, guys, I didn't get a chance to tell you that he had the blonde hair because he was in a Halloween costume prior to the reunion and so forth." So that's a little interesting kind of sidebar on why Carrington had the blonde hair. I thought it was kind of funny. I addressed it, and he responded to his credit respectfully, and I
Oh,
kind of I
okay.
kind of got a kick out of it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you got a kick out of it because Carrington, Corey, Cornelius, Frank. Those are four men that really caught my attention this season. Okay. And I'm gonna leave that right there. All right. So now the last topic. The last
What you mean you gonna leave it there? The audience right now, we're starving. Arr, 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 arr. We're hungry right now for what you're talking about.
if you're an adult male or you're adult female or you're an adult transgendered, them, him, her, whatever you're calling yourself. Um, Corey, Carrington, Cornelius, Frank. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll leave that
So
there.
now, Sheroes. Let's talk about something positive. Let's end this broadcast on a positive note. And those of you who are out there, please like the video. You've been watching thus far. You gotten a little enjoyment out of the laughter, key, or just even an observation that this man over here, this filmmaker, Alex W. Leath has made, or that I may have made, or that we've made together. Please like the video. Make a comment later on when you come back to it, or share it out with a friend. This is how you help support me. Oh, and by the way, I'm on the road to 200, um, and I'm really excited about that. On the road to 200. I love that little sound. Obviously, I didn't have that queued up, but anyway, but what I want to talk about, something positive, ending on a positive note. I want to talk about sheroes on the show. We didn't talk about the sheroes of the show, the women that really showed up and showed out. Let's talk about them right now, okay? Let's close it out and let's make our observations about who you thought was a shero, or more than one if you find that there was more than one woman, because I know I have a couple on my list that I want to talk about.
Well, I'll let you start. This is your topic. Who do you think was a shero?
I think one of the people that was a shero, I think that Carrie, something that she said comes to mind, when she kind of in the conversation of talking about the brown girls, she kind of made a comment that really made a lot of sense. And she said that when she was talking, and I guess it came up when Naeem was kind of defending and saying, well, oh, all you women here are just jealous of Zadia because she's beautiful, and 8 out of 9 men put her number one. They wanted her. And so very calmly and very pragmatically, Carrie responded, well, no, you're right. Zadia is very attractive. She's very pretty, very beautiful. And I actually liked her in the beginning. She said, in the beginning, I actually liked her, but she actually does not. Speaking about Zadia, Carrie speaking about Zadia, she says she doesn't treat people well. She can treat people very meanly, very cruelly, and these are the things that the reasons why the women don't like Zadia. It's because of her behavior, not because of her good looks. And that she became a shero of mine for that, for just that thing right there. I mean, she didn't have a big role in the part one of the reunion, but just that comment and that statement that she made and the stance that she took on that, I felt like that was a real stand-up move right there.
Yeah, and that was big. I think for me, because also Sabrina pointed out at the reunion that Zadia was very, very mean, that she was mean to Sabrina from day one. She said, whatever the reason is behind the scenes or whatever, she was very mean to Sabrina. Sabrina didn't appreciate that. She voiced it at the reunion. And this is one of the reasons why Zadia stormed out, because they wasn't giving her a chance to talk, as she stated. She didn't have a chance to talk. So she would come back on stage when she was able to talk. But I would say in that regard, Sabrina probably became one of my sheroes, because of her being very candid about a lot of things as the season went on. You know, her telling Sean, or Walter, I should say, her telling Walter
Walter, yeah.
that I was a stripper and so forth, because she didn't want to leave any gray areas. You know, if you're going to choose me, you're going to choose me, all of me, my past, my present, my future, all of that. I don't want to be vague, and then you choose me. Here come a whole bunch of stuff coming out. I mean, we're always going to learn more about a person if we're with them, but she's being
Hmm.
as candid as possible in this dating
Yeah,
process, so she can be
yeah.
honestly chosen for who she is.
I
Okay,
like that. You're right.
so
You're right, because
so
she didn't have to share that with him. Right?
yeah,
Exactly.
she didn't have to share that stuff, and she also was very candid. I have a 9-year-old daughter. I'm a single parent. I don't want any more children. Okay, so she's
Yeah,
very
she
candid
did
about
say
that.
that. Hmm.
Okay, so this is why Sean, who wants to be a father, couldn't rock with her like that. He
Right.
said, "No,
Well,
I can't do it." And also
but I have.
Walter, who wants children, according to
What
him.
she did. She did. Yeah. She. Well, I will say this. So in the show, according to the show, and we didn't see all of this, but it was talked about once in the men's deliberation room. I think it's Dante that says that Sabrina came a little bit too late, or maybe it was Phil. I can't remember which one of them that said Sabrina came a little bit too late with her change of mind that she would have children if the man that she married wanted to have children. So she did change her mind on that, and she said that she was actively considering it. That she liked Walter, and had they made it to the marriage stage, that she would have considered, trying to have a baby with him.
Right. But I mean, I guess, but
Yeah.
she didn't. I guess she didn't feel strongly enough at the end
Hmm.
about anybody to want to
Well,
go that route. I'm not
She's
sure.
40. Yeah, she's 46. I
46,
mean, so the
46.
other thing, yeah, the other thing about that is a man that's got any kind of good understanding of chemistry of a woman's body shouldn't be really, we're not going to go through this whole thing again, but you get what I'm saying. I mean,
Right, right,
46
right, right,
is a way past prime to be having children for most
right.
women, for most women. So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, but
absolutely.
other sheroes in the mix too was Aisha. I wanna give a shout out to Aisha for standing in the gap and for pointing out, once again, the bad behavior of certain women on the cast, certain castmates, pointing it out and standing in her conviction that you said what you said, and why don't you take accountability for it? That's all we want. We want you to just take accountability for it, which was never done. Without rehashing all of that again, right? But just so shout out to her. She was one of my sheroes for standing there and being honest and open about what really happened. And I think there's a lot of things that we saw that was caught on camera. But like you pointed out, with even Sabrina and other women that mistreated her, or the woman that mistreated her, a lot of it, lot of it, when we were seeing reactions from certain people, was because of behavior that they didn't show.
Right,
You know.
right. And I have to say too, I have to say, Aisha, being a fellow New Yorker, Brooklynite, whatever it may be,
Oh,
and
you just gonna give it to her because of proximity and geography?
yeah, she got to get that. You know what I mean? Because you got to be loyal to that. But The thing is, what makes Aisha's interesting is that Aisha knows when to be strong, and she knows how to be vulnerable. You know, and that's a thing that's a lot of people don't have that, because when she's standing up to these other women and she's letting people know, listen, your behavior is wrong. I ain't nobody's punk. Don't come at me like that. I'm just telling you where you're wrong at, whatever. But then when it's time to be really in her femininity and cry and do that kind of thing, she can do that too. She can be very vulnerable. So I kind of like that about her, because she understands that, and she understands that in order to truly be in love or to love anybody, you have to get to a point where you're somewhat vulnerable. You're trusting your heart to another person. There has to be some vulnerability there. And I think she understands that. But the fact that she can stand up, and she's been standing up to those women, the whole season, it's a very attractive quality, because if she's doing it with women, she'll do it for her man. She'll stand up for her man. And she did that too.
You're right. You're right. I think that it's a really great thing that we're gonna see. What are you looking forward to seeing in part two of this reunion?
Oh wow. Well, that's hard to say. I just want to. Well, what I would really like to see is probably not going to transpire, because for one reason, Shiloh is not there, so we're not going to see that. But what I would really like to see, and I don't think this is even possible. I would just like to see some accountability for some of the bad behavior. I would like to see some accountability. Somebody say I'm sorry for something, and
Well,
I'm talking
okay.
about,
Oh,
and
go ahead.
I'm talking about from the brown girl clique or whoever.
Right.
Somebody say sorry for something and say, I wish I had done it differently. The same way Tyrone did with Carrie. I wish I had done it differently. I apologize for this or that, blah, blah. Do that. I'm not sure I'm going to see that.
Well, you know what? Oh, that brings me to another question that I have, and I'm wondering if you could help me out. What do you think that's going on with Corey? Corey is crying and saying, "Why do I always do this? What's that all about?" And Kia Simone says, "Why is Tasia asking Corey to tell the truth?" Yeah, that's what I want to know, Kia. I want to know what is going on there. Was there a relationship going on that was off camera? Do you think?
Well, I don't know, but Corey came across as being kind of a player wannabe. Remember he was leaving the notes every place, and
Oh,
then
right, for Courtney, yeah, by the
did,
pool.
did and then he wanted to meet everybody's mama. So so he kind of, or he wanted everybody to meet his mama or
Yeah,
whatever
I
the
was about
case
to say,
was.
yeah, he was lying to the girl, saying that, I guess if you drop the drawers that you'll get to meet my mother. I don't know, just some old school craziness.
Right.
Like, once again, like I said, these castmates, not all of them, not all, I'm not saying all, but a number of them were very juvenile. Very
Yeah. So
juvenile. Oh, and I want to send a shout out to Harlem, New York. Hey Harlem, how you doing? Hey lady.
my hometown again. See, we strong up in here, Aubrey.
Oh wow, yeah. I was looking for somebody. I don't know. I didn't see somebody I know that's also from New York, but I don't know. They may have been in the audience because there were a number of people that didn't comment. So hey to everybody that's out there. We really appreciate it. If you give us this video a thumbs up, we appreciate you coming out on this Sunday where you could be anywhere else and you decided to spend some time with Alex W. Leath and myself. We thank you. We really appreciate you. But
And
yeah, those go
and
ahead.
and, and you always talk about feminine energy and
Mhm.
things of that nature, that the women are walking in their masculine energy, and the true women are walking in their femininity and so forth. But I'm just going to say there are a few of these guys who walked in a lot of feminine energy. Okay. And as you said earlier, I'll just leave that right there. Maybe that's why Corey's crying or whatever. We don't know. But there are a couple of these guys that walked in some feminine energy, and we'll leave that there.
Yeah, they're like I said, Corey, Cornelius, Carrington, Frank. I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess there's a shortage of men in DC, or somebody's playing in our faces, but it is what it is, and I
Oh,
just
and speaking of playing in your faces, never mind. I'll leave that alone.
All right, Alex. Oh yeah. So Kia said Detroit is strong up in here. Yes, yes. Where's my sound effect at?
Oh,
Yes, for the D,
so
for the D.
so
Yeah,
so
hometown girl. Yes, yes,
so
yes.
so am I to understand both you and Kia now are making it clap? Are both of y'all making it clap? Talk to me now. Make it clap.
Well, well, Harlem, New York. Harlem, New York says the season was just so messy. Let's see what the next one brings. Wait a minute, Harlem. Have you seen the castmates for next season? I'm like, oh my goodness.
What's wrong with him? What's the
Have
matter?
you have you seen? Did I send
I
you
saw him.
the?
I saw them.
Oh, come
I saw
on
them.
now. Okay, all right, everything is not based on looks, but I mean just even the pictures, the quality of the pictures, own has got to do better. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it, y'all might not like it, but own
Yeah,
has got to do better.
I
I
saw
i've
one.
got I've got a son that could take better, more professional pictures. First of all, if you're going to be a media company and you're going to put out promo pictures, take professional headshots or professional body shot, full body shots, right? No, no, sir. No, sir. Not what they're doing with those photos. They playing in our faces once again. And I know it's a tendency, whatever, when with this show, with Ready to Love, when they go to a city, they stay in that city typically for 2 seasons, right? So
Mm.
they're back in DC, but this time, well, they're in Potomac, Maryland, which is a little more upscale, actually, like a suburb of DC, right? They're in Potomac. So but come on, the castmates that I've seen, I'm not really impressed. I'm not impressed with the
Well,
picture.
maybe they'll win you over as the season go on and so forth. Again, these are first impressions. I mean, you're talking
Right.
about the art. You're talking about the artistry of the photographs. I saw a few
I'm
that were
talking
in
about the
question.
artistry. Yeah, I'm not talking
Yeah,
about the people themselves because I don't
I,
know them.
I saw a few that were in question myself. I didn't like certain poses. I didn't like certain things they were wearing. So yeah, I didn't like some of that stuff as well. But and when the season starts, and hopefully we'll get into these characters a little bit more, that there'll be some things that we like more so, and it won't be the toxicity that we found in this season. Yes, we need drama. Drama gets the people to watch, but we don't need the toxicity that we found in this season.
No, yeah, and that's the thing that I think that threw me off, because I really enjoy this show because I think it brings a lot of good observations. I mean, you can see yourself in some of the couples and some of the people and some of the singles. If you watch closely enough, you can see your own behaviors. Maybe some things that you're doing right in dating, maybe some things that you could do better, maybe some things that you got totally wrong. But when you see somebody else doing it, you can say, well, you know what? I used to do that. I used to always ask the guy, well, how do you feel about me? How do you feel? Where is this going? Where is this going? I used to rush him and push the guy, and just really be not so laid back, and or just date other people, because I know that, if he hasn't made a commitment to me and I haven't made a commitment to him, I can still see other people. So I love the show for that reason. I think it really brought a lot of detail, and it showed us, how dating could be done for single black professionals and entrepreneurs and successful people, and people all in between, mailmen and school teachers and all types of at different levels of success. It was just a beautiful thing. But this season, unfortunately, yeah, there was a lot of toxicity, and I'm not really even happy about it, because I feel
Yeah,
like a lot of people got hurt in the process of this filmmaking. You know how they always say about animals, no animals were harmed in the filming, but I feel like a lot of people emotionally will be recuperating from this. I feel like movement will be recuperating from this. I feel like just some of the people that were hurt will be recuperating from this. And how are they going to do that? Because the show doesn't provide any kind of counseling that I know of.
yeah, it's just the gauge of time. Time, they say time heals all wounds, but sometimes time doesn't, because people still living with being bullied when they were in school, and now they're in their
Yeah.
40s now. So sometimes time doesn't heal. If you didn't have the appropriate counseling and proper people to speak to and get certain things out, time's not going to heal anything if you never dealt with it.
Yeah,
So
get help. If you need help, get help. That's what I say. If you need help, if you need counseling, if you need therapy and a therapist, get help. Don't wait. Don't Don't be ashamed. Don't accept that there's a stigma, because there should not be any stigma. Just like there's no stigma when you go to the dentist to get your teeth cleaned, or go get a cavity filled, or if you go to the doctor for your annual, or if you go to a doctor because your regular medical doctor because you're in pain. Don't wait. If you feeling uncomfortable, you don't feel safe, you don't feel whole, go get mental counseling and mental health help, because it's available. There are places where it's free. There's places where you can get it for low cost, or a percentage of what you earn. But get help, if you need it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
But we'll be back. Here's the thing. So guys, we'll be back next week at the same time, same place, here on the YouTube streets, 4 o'clock. Alex, will you be able to join us again next week?
I'm gonna try. I may be traveling the end of the week, so I'll let you know. I
Okay.
can post it throughout the week, but I may be traveling. So if I'm on the road, maybe not, but I'll let
Okay.
you know.
Okay, okay. All right, not a problem, not a problem. We'll look forward to you letting us know, and if you're back. But I will definitely be going on next week at 4 o'clock, same time, same place. Actually, Aubrey, I will be here in the house. There's something I'm supposed to be mentioning. Oh my goodness, where are my notes, my closing notes? Oh yeah, on the road to 200. So if you guys like this video, if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. I need you to keep the channel going. Your support, you support me, is free. And I'll support you, and I'll keep bringing you good content. And there'll be more things I'll be doing. The Kings of Napa. And again, we'll be starting back up. I'll be starting back up with Ready to Love when the new season starts at the end of the month. That'll be a show that I'll be covering. And I will also, and I'm still covering Married at First Sight. So those videos are still coming out, but I will be caught up today or tomorrow. Well, tomorrow I'll be caught up with all of those videos, and we'll be on track as we follow these 3 shows throughout the season, and bring these lives to you, so that we can all kind of kiki and talk about it and get into it while we get into it, right? So want to
Absolutely.
thank. Yeah. So Alex, oh yeah, Alex, is there anything you want to share? What's going on with you, and what you're promoting, and what's going on with you? Go ahead.
Well, no, I got a lot going on as far as my investment life. I'm looking for some rental properties right now to purchase, and so I'm kind of picking up my cryptocurrency purchases and my stock portfolio. I'm really focusing this year on diversifying my portfolio. So, and I advise everybody else to kind of do the same as you go through this year, because financial literacy is a must for all of us. We have to learn how money works, and I'll just say that. I also say for you, thank you for having me. Everybody get that Cash App, send donations to the show. It's really appreciated. Hit the like, subscribe. We love doing this for you guys. We appreciate you for listening, and I love you all. I'll see you again soon.
All right, all right. Oh yeah, and that's what it was. Thank you, Alex. You just reminded me where I can find my notes. Thank you. I wanted to say, so I had 3 donations this past week. Today's Sunday, so last week throughout the week I had 3 donations from 3 of our viewers that wanted to remain anonymous. But I thank you. You know who you are, and I wanted to thank you again.
You love that thing, don't you? You love that clap.
uh, uh, and on that note, guys, we're out. You guys have a great week. All right.